And there we go. Welcome, everyone, to the meeting of the Baltimore County House Delegation meeting of April the 28th. I'm happy to be here this morning. We have a little legislation to take up today. We're getting toward the end. There are pieces of Senate legislation. We have a House bill connected to one of them. But last week, we had one of our major universities visit with us, the president of one of the major universities in Baltimore County. Proud to have two major public universities. The one we're talking about today, I'm going to say this before you get to, is an R1 university. If you don't know what that is, I didn't for a while. It's very important. But we have from UMBC, we have President Valerie Shears Ashby to speak this morning. Tell us a little bit about what's going on at UBC and take a few questions if you have them. So President Ashby, the floor is yours.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you for the opportunity to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is UMBC and its wonderful students and faculty and staff. Just to give you a little bit of an overview of where we are now, we're about 14,000 students total. And about 3,000 of those students are graduate students and the rest are undergraduate students. In that student body, it is truly representative of the state of Maryland in many ways. About 1/3 of our students are Pell eligible students. And so, the highest need, financial need students, which we love that. Because we believe that a UMBC education changes the economic trajectory of students and their families. About 1/3 of our students, a little bit more, are first generation college students, which we also love that. We have in our graduating class every year, about half of our students who graduate came to us, transferred into us from community colleges around the state mostly. And that is pretty extraordinary when I tell you that my community college students, when they graduate a little faster than a first-time, first-year student at UMBC. And so our community colleges in Maryland are doing something pretty extraordinary that, quite frankly, having been in 3 public systems, I've never seen community college students be this successful in the transfer process and also in the graduation. So we're excited about that. We are, as mentioned before, we are a Research One institution. And what that means for those of you who may not know fully, there are about 187 institutions across the entire country who reach this highest level of research, and they're designated as a Research One institution. We were a Research One institution just the semester before I started. So I started here in July of 22. It's so hard to imagine August of 22. It's hard to imagine that. We had just become a Research One institution. But to give you some idea of how fast our research is growing and the level at which we are operating, when I came in, we had $82 million worth of research funding. And as of this year, we are about 145 million. So that's pretty extraordinary for a new Research One institution. So we're really proud of all of that. I will tell you that a part of the beauty of UMBC is that our undergraduate students, as well as our graduate students, are doing research. So they're having an opportunity to really have hands-on, real-life experiences, either in research or in internships or in all sorts of opportunities that you provide. Almost about 80% of our students have some kind of hands-on experiential learning, and the research mission is a large part of that. I can tell you a little bit, let me not forget my Shady Grove students. I have 500 extraordinary students at Shady Grove. I will tell you that I have office hours for students every Thursday. So they can just come in and talk to me about anything in the world, and they do. Often they come in and say, "What in the world does a president do?" And sometimes they come in and tell me all the things that they think that the president isn't doing that she should be doing, and we love all of that. But I also have office hours at Shady Grove, and just an extraordinary set of students there. I would just highlight that our Shady Grove students, the population there is really important because it's reminiscent of the region in which it is. It's about 25% Latinx, which is indicative of what's happening kind of in the Montgomery County space. So all of that is important to us. Let me give you a few, things that I like to bragging points on UMBC. One is that we still are, and we have been this for years, but we remain the number one institution that produces Black students who go on to get PhDs in math, computer science, the life sciences, and engineering combined. That's pretty extraordinary. To say that we actually held that when we weren't a research one institution and we still hold it. The second one that I always like to highlight is that we are the number one producer also of Black students who go on to get MD PhDs in the country. And I like to say that Harvard is a very, very distant second, very distant. And so our students, we prepare them to do pretty much whatever. I say if you come to UMBC, you can go anywhere and or do anything. The beauty is also about 78% of our students, when they graduate, they remain in Maryland to work, which is a beautiful thing. So we are actually producing a really highly qualified workforce for the state of Maryland. Um, so that's all really wonderful. I didn't mention when I mentioned the Research One status that we are one of three in the USM system. We were one of two as before, but now we're one of three as of last year. The University of Maryland, downtown Baltimore, also became, with the new designations, the new rules, also became the third R1 institution in the system. Let me say a couple things that I'm proud of here recently, and then I will stop talking and happy to have you all ask me anything you would like. Um, Let me talk about our new Institute of Politics. Oh, we're so excited. Um, so we stole Malia Cromer, who is an extraordinary political scientist, who ran right. We are so excited. Thank you. We stole her from Goucher. I love my friends at Goucher, but it was lovely to acquire her at UMBC. And so what used to be the Goucher poll is now the UMBC poll. And she does extraordinary work with our students. Not only is she great as a political scientist, but our students are having this experience of getting out into our communities and engaging in ways that are just so special and really becoming more interested in public service and in politics, which is fantastic. So that's our new Institute of Politics. The second one that I'll talk about and take a complete pivot is talking about my student athletes. And then the last one I'll tell you about the moon, but our student athletes are extraordinary. They are truly student athletes. Our GPA for our student athletes is about 3.45, somewhere in there, across all of our students, right? Every single student athlete. And we just recently celebrated during halftime of one of our games, we had more than 100 students who had a 4.0 who were student athletes. I mean, top of their game everywhere. I'm so proud of them. So that's a wonderful thing. And then the last thing I'll tell you is we're actually going to the moon. And I keep saying that because I want everybody to know and I want everybody to tell this story. Um, so UMBC is going to the moon. So the Artemis 3 mission, which is the first time that humans will be going to the moon since the first time we did it, more than 50 years ago, is happening in the next couple of years. And there are three scientific experiments that are going to be on that Artemis 3 mission. One of them is from a university in Tokyo. The second is from a company in Colorado. And the third is from UMBC, which is extraordinary. So the press that we're going to get for Maryland and for the University System of Maryland and for UMBC when this happens is going to be pretty incredible. I also like to say of the three experiments that are going to happen on that moon mission, only one of them is actually going to remain physically on the moon to continue to take data even after the astronauts return. And so that one is the UMBC instrument. So literally it will remain there and our scientists and our students will be able to monitor the data that they're taking in an ongoing way. So that's going to be exciting. So alongside that, this year we moved from number 16 to number 10 in NASA funding nationally. So we really have a significant footprint there, and just really have wonderful expertise. I could go on. We have a new AI center. We have a new quantum computing center. Um, just really a pleasure. I'll end here by saying it's a pleasure. And I have to say that these days because sometimes people don't think these jobs are a pleasure, but they are. They're actually a privilege. If you want to if you want to be uplifted, come walk with me around my campus and just see my students from every background. By the way, we have students on our campus from every county in the state of Maryland, right? Like they're from all over, um, and they're extraordinary. And they are being transformed in ways that when they leave here, they are truly an asset to the state, but also to their local communities. So I'll end there. I keep telling people, you can't have my job. I've got the best one in the world. But I'll share it with you if you want to come and visit. So I'll stop there and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. And thanks to Jake Wiseman for coming along with you. We all know Jake pretty well because he had a presence here for quite a while. And so he's a recognizable face. And I wanted to say, I think I said it before we went live, but I want to say it again. We started a little earlier and we really appreciated both of your flexibilities and being able to accommodate the schedule with the earlier start time to the session today. I see a hand up. And so I'm going to go to Delegate Cardin. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Madam President, for being here. It's so exciting to hear what wonderful things are happening at UMBC as a proud graduate of one of your graduate student graduates.
Yes.
And we have some wonderful graduates. In fact, I think like more graduates from UMBC than most other institutions in Maryland. So it's great. And it's so exciting to hear what's happening with NASA and with some of your research. And by the way, the Institute of Politics, I wish it was there when I was there getting my degree in public policy. But I'm wondering if you can give us any insights as to what's been contemplated with some of the reductions coming from the federal government, and if that's going to impact your R1 status or your ability to seek grants.
I appreciate the question. So let me preface my answer by saying, we're in a pretty great place at UMBC. And I know that's not every institution across the country or even in the system. So I'm grateful for where we sit, and we're uniquely placed because we're, first of all, not significantly, our research portfolio is not heavily weighted by NIH, which was the first change that was made. So we have a pretty balanced research portfolio. If you're heavily NIH, that has hit people pretty hard. The second is that really up until this point, I think we have had 2 grants impacted. And so I'm grateful for that. And so the other thing is that we've managed financially very well. We've taken the risk I think we needed to take, but also been conservative enough that, for example, when we take the state cut, whatever that is, we plan scenarios for that. And, you know, it's not something that we could sustain over multiple years, but we will be okay this year. Jake has heard me say it. By the way, Jake is one of the best things that I've done since I've been at UMBC. And I know you know it because he's extraordinary. But he's heard me say it 1,000 times. Just at UMBC, we will not complain. That is not an option. We will figure out how to solve our problems. We will keep delivering. This year, our students, faculty, and staff, mostly our students, will not be able to tell the difference in anything, right? Like we are determined to continue always giving them the highest quality education, even if we have to make some changes in how we do it. We're just not going to complain. The state has been too good to us for a very long time, and we have done very well. So the answer to the question is we'll have to make some adjustments. We don't know what all that will entail as the years go on, but I'm not worried. It's a challenge, and we're going to stay focused on what's most important to us.
Thank you for that. Yeah, we're all a little concerned, and I'm glad that Delegate Cardin asked the question so you could address it. We also appreciate that you're gonna, you know, assume we're doing the very best job we can, and so we appreciate that. Delegate Ruth, I see your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, President Shears Ashby. You are doing just amazing work, and we're so thrilled to have you on BC in our district and have you leading it up. Just really appreciate all the work that you're doing. I didn't hear you mention this, but if you did, I apologize. You've talked about your goal in terms of middle schoolers, and I wondered if you could touch on that.
Sure. Oh, one of my favorite subjects. So one of the things that I have, when I look at the landscape of UMBC and think about where are we going, so first of all, I need you to know we're not going to rest just because we're doing well. Like we're not going to sit down and say, okay, this is good enough. We can do more. I'm confident that we can serve more Marylanders. And let me just back up and say, you know, College Park is what, 41,000 now. If they don't, you know, they're pretty landlocked. They can grow to like 44,000. If we're going to increase the number of Marylanders who want to have a research one fully comprehensive educational experience, the next institution is us. We are not landlocked, okay? And so I know we need to grow, but for me, a part of how we actually get that pipeline is to make sure that we're going all the way back into the K through 12 space and starting at the middle school. So one of my goals, it was something we did at the flagship institution in North Carolina. Every single middle schooler visited campus. For years, you can ask people, when I was a middle schooler, I visited UNC Chapel Hill because that's what we did. It's life-changing when those students step on the campus. They see students, first of all, from their own communities and schools. They see people who look like them because our community is so diverse in every way. And so that is a goal for me and we've already started, Jake. I don't know how many hundreds of students or thousands we've had on campus already. It's life-changing for them. Some of the students have never been on a college campus, never imagined that they could come to college. And I don't believe in a four-year college degree is for everybody, but it's for a lot more people. And it's life-changing for a lot more people. So we're starting at that middle school space. So thank you, Delegate Ruth, for asking. We're already marching down that road. And it's a joy every time I see, hundreds of middle schoolers walking around our campus, imagining who they could be. So it's really wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. My chief of staff is telling me that her middle schooler went to UMBC to visit this year. So she whispered in my ear, said, Jack went. I said, great.
That is awesome.
I don't see any other questions. I have privilege of a couple of things. First of all, you talked about the doctoral program. I have a personal story. My spouse has her doctorate from UMBC, but also our congressman representing District 2 has his doctorate from UMBC as well. And I think that's of note. The other thing I will say is that you mentioned community colleges and your relationship with them. I know Maryland has, and many states do, a very good reciprocal relationship between our community colleges. It's a great place for students to start. And the best news is that you don't hold it against them that they started there, okay? That you're happy they did, and you from what you said, they find their way through, very well. And we have a good geographic relationship there too. CCBC has a campus incredibly close to your campus. And I hear about students who tell me about driving back and forth for things. So that's really, I think that sort of, collaboration, cooperation is, commendable. I can imagine a world, and I kind of remember one when I was in college where 4 years kind of saw themselves as a little separate, a little better, a little different, not really. And we've managed to bridge that. And I know you're part of that. And I really appreciate it. The last comment I made is the very first thing I said to you when I met you was Mike Bordick, okay, who was the shortstop, who became the shortstop after Cal Ripken. Cal Ripken was legendary, but Mike Bordick, we loved him, and he was around for quite a while. And that's who you are my Mike Bordick, okay? So there you go.
I love that.
I know. He was. I don't know if you remember that. You were probably you're inculcating a lot of information at the beginning, but it's great to have you here. I think you're doing a great job. I guess that you're coming up on 3 years now, from if I did my math correctly when you said
That's right.
So
Yeah.
you're really it now, and that's great. So good to have you.
Thank you all. I just want to say thank you for your continued support. I didn't say this when I was talking, but every time somebody out of the state asks me what it's like in Maryland, I say I hit the jackpot. Like for higher education, this is the best public system in the country, hands down. And so it's because of your support. And so I really am very appreciative. And again, I go back, we will never complain. We will work with what we have and we will continue to be better. So I appreciate each one of you. Thank you.
We thank you for your time, and I will tell you that I have had opportunity to meet with the president alone and with other members of my district, but I bet if any of you called Jake and said, hey, we'd like to get together with her, it would happen. And she has a room upstairs that overlooks the city that's kind of great. So I recommend it. There you go. So with that, I thank you for being here. Unless there's anything else to add, we will move on to our business. You can stay and watch, but you probably have other important things to do. So we'll release you and we'll get to our business. Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
All right, cheers. All right, so now we begin the business portion of our meeting. We have three, or really sort of 3.5 or 4 bills to take up. Two that we can take up simultaneously. The first one is fairly straightforward. This is because we need some clarification. House Bill 352, which is the bill that was before us on our own terms, which was the Republican Party asking for changes in the number of Central Committee members they had. They do theirs by councilmanic district. We discovered that the Democratic Central Committee, the law was antiquated and needed to be updated. We amended that. We have that amendment. We are attaching that amendment to it. It's already been testified in Ways and Means, and the Senate sponsor said, yeah, great, put it on. And so I would like to, without a great deal of fanfare, just ask to move this bill with the amendment that we used to conform it to the bill that we sent over to the Senate. I need a motion.
I move to conform.
Thank you.
Second.
And second.
Second.
Is there any discussion?
I'm
Seeing
sorry,
none,
Mr. Chair, I stepped away. Which bill are we talking
we're
about?
doing, yeah, this is just a Central Committee bill. We held it last week.
Okay.
There were a couple
Okay.
Central Committee members that wanted to understand what was going on. And the Republicans were making changes. We were just doing some house cleaning in the law on ours, and that's the amendment. Okay, seeing no further discussion, all in favor, signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, we will send that. We'll send that to the Ways and Means Committee with our resounding support. That concludes Senate Bill 352. Now we will take up Senate Bill 1030. We will take up it with your permission, without objection, House Bill 1520, which has come out of rules. And our intent is whatever we discuss on 1320, we will do precisely the same thing to 1520, except we will add an amendment that will change the sponsor on 1520 to Baltimore County delegation. But for that, I turn it over to, I think we're going to go with the bill sponsor on this one. No, I'm sorry. We go to the chair of the Public Safety Committee, Delegate Cardin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This was the bill that came in regarding a police ambulance company that needed to make sure that it could use its lights with let me just do this. I'm gonna put myself on camera so we can see me.
We want to see you.
There we go. Okay.
I will say that's
so
an older
this
version of
basically-
you for sure, but I like it nonetheless.
I know. I don't know where that picture came from, by the way, Mr. Chair. That's just popped up on my Zoom.
You sure that's
Anyway,
not your high school
and I
picture?
can't get it off. I'm trying to get it updated. Okay, so there's a ambulance company that services both Baltimore City, Baltimore County, but it does do quite a bit in our area, in Delegate Steins, in my area in Baltimore County, called Hatsala. They need their MVA came and asked that there's some clarification as to whether their private vehicles can run lights when they're on their way to an emergency or to the ambulance to get in to the ambulance to go to an emergency. And MVA was unsure whether it was permitted under the present law. So there's clarification need to happen. I asked some questions last week. I got those questions clarified. I spoke with MVA. I feel very comfortable with the bill, with what the bill is trying to do, and giving 5 individuals the ability to have the lights being able to be run. There is an amendment that was offered by Delegate Phillips that was given to us by the sponsor, that the county really asked for, to make sure that this wasn't going to start happening all over the place without some oversight. And the amendment, Delegate Phillips, correct me if I'm wrong, the amendment just clarifies that this is for this particular company, and that other companies would have to then reach out to us in order to be included. I would first move the amendment that was introduced.
And I would
Delegate Phillips,
second
you want to
that.
weigh in on that for us? Thanks.
No, I'd second that amendment.
Okay.
And just offer this. I think because this is something a little different, a little new, we ought to maintain some level of control over what organizations are doing this.
Okay. So we have the amendment has been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the amendment to the bill that would cite, I think in particular, if I have it correct, Delegate Cardin, the actual name of the organization in this particular case? That
is correct, and I have a nodding from Miss Scott.
Yes, when she nods, we all go, then it's true. All right. So is there any further discussion on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment to add that we are specificity to the organization that will have this privilege, raise your hand or say aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any objections? Okay, hearing none, the amendment carries unanimously. On the bill as amended, Delegate Cardin.
Yes, the bill did go unanimously. There was a unanimous favorable report recommended by the subcommittee.
Okay, and I want to stress.
And I wanted to also say, I would like to, as personal privilege, what you had just said is include as amended the House bill by my colleague and our Speaker Pro Tem.
Right, and that that's at the top, and we can, I think we can do this without objection. This amendment and these approvals are going to be identical. We're going to send them both over to the Senate. The only difference will be that we will have an amendment that will change the name of the sponsor of the Baltimore County House bill to Baltimore County rather than Delegate Stein, and that probably went along with our amendment vote before since it was mentioned. But is there any discussion on the bill as amended? Yes, Delegate Long.
Yes, question is, what kind of lights will they be displaying, and will there be any other definitive markings on the vehicles to identify them?
All
In
right.
other words, what color lights are going to be, and are they going to display some type of signs identifying the vehicles?
So the lights are something that has been utilized for years. I believe that there's certain requirements of the lights that the MVA has approved. I don't have the expertise to know what that is. Maybe Delegate Stein might know. I don't know.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman.
You have the floor. Go.
Yeah, they would be red or red and white lights or signal devices on the privately owned vehicles of 5 of the highest ranking officers. So Delegate Long, I don't believe that the vehicles have any identification that they're Hatzalah, but they're certainly at the scene. They're with a vehicle, for example, an ambulance that is identified as being Hatzalah.
Did you say private vehicle or an ambulance?
These are private vehicles.
These are private vehicles.
Okay.
I mean, at the scene, there is typically an ambulance.
Right. I thought that's what this was for, to be able, so they could go for the ambulance got there to help assist because of the problems with Baltimore County response time. The only concern I have is, and maybe you can clarify, we've had in the past where people have used lights to act like they were police officers, and we've had some bad situations happen because of that. And I was just curious to make sure that this wouldn't wouldn't accelerate any of people using these lights to for illegal purposes. That's all. That's the only question. That's why I asked that question.
Right. May I respond, Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, please do.
So, Delegate Long, this is kind of what I was worried about, and I do look into this a little bit. And again, Delegate Stein may be able to chime in from the committee of jurisdiction on this. But that's exactly why there's a specific individual or specific entities in the institution that have the training and the knowledge and the liability. By the way, this their insurance covers all of this to make sure that they're not disobeying any of the regulations of which they're allowed to utilize. And that's sort of what I looked into, and found out that if they do start misusing these, they will not only lose their insurance, but they will get into some significant trouble with the NBA.
Right. I fully support it. I think it's a great idea. The only concern I had was not the people that are actually allowed to use those, but for people copycatting. In other words, for someone else in a private vehicle putting lights on their cars. That was my only concern. But I think it's a great program. I would like to expand it into Baltimore County and our district. It'd be nice. Thank you.
Correct me if I'm wrong. First of all, this group doesn't exist because of poor response times in Baltimore County. This group exists because there's a specific need in the community.
Right.
I just want to get that out there because I think I heard that said. The other thing I want is I believe there's precedent. I believe some volunteer fire companies have the certain officers and volunteer fire companies have this privilege on their private vehicles. Can anybody, county or anybody who's working on the bill, verify if that's true? So it's not a brand new idea is what I'm suggesting.
Okay. Well, that clarifies. Like I said, I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
That's correct on all counts.
Any other discussion on the bills as amended? Okay, seeing none, let's take a vote. All those in favor of a favorable report on these bills as amended, raise your hands, please, or say aye.
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 And do we have any objections? Drop your hands if you don't. And I see none, so we unanimously pass these bills on to committee as amended. That ends the hearing, the voting sessions on Senate Bill 1030 and House Bill 1520. Now we're going to take up Senate Bill 656, Baltimore County Board of Education, alterations to elected member districts. And to that, I will go to the Education Subcommittee Chair, Delegate Forbes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The subcommittee could not reach a consensus on this bill, but I'm going to propose an amendment that I think would address the concerns that people have. Rightly, as you know, there right now.
I'm going to stop you. We're going to suggest an amendment, but we're not going to make it an amendment today.
Right,
So
we don't have the amendment before.
let's clarify that
today,
we're not
but-
going to vote on this bill or amendment today. We're going to discuss these, and we will have a meeting next week, which means if there's a very early caucus at 9 a.m. for someone, we may meet as early as 8 a.m. to take up this bill next week. So everybody kind of, pencil it in. Sorry, Delegate Forbes, I wanted to get all that out before I forgot to say it.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. If you want to go forward with, because you and I have worked on it, if you want to go forward and
No,
explain.
I think you should start.
Okay, so currently the Baltimore County School Board is 7 elected members elected by Councilmanic District, 4 appointed members by the governor chosen by a 19-member nominating committee. The nominating committee gives the governor numbers. As we know, the Baltimore County Council is expanding to 9 members. And they are in the process of making maps. The maps will be available in June by the commission, and then the county council has to accept them or approve them by October 1st. That puts the next election for the Board of Education. What are we going to do with it? We heard loud and clear in their discussion of this bill that there are members that think that there should be some stability in that election. So what the amendment would propose is that we leave the 7 members in place through the 2026 election, but next session we form a work group of Baltimore County House and Senate delegation members to determine how we move forward with the school board and come up with consensus legislation going forward.
I think that's actually put. You and I did discuss it a little bit, and I think you've covered all the major points that the instability that's offered to us right now by not understanding what the council districts are going to be and where they are exactly means that we need to place a hold. But I think that the idea of sticking to 7. So let's go to Delegate Ruth, please. A question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So the main difference would be instead of these districts going to 2030, they would go to 2026, and then there would be a work group. Is that?
Yeah, there would be a work group as soon as next session, when we'll have the council maps in hand, we can look and see what we're going. We also have the 4 appointed members. We changed it because they were appointed in the gubernatorial years, and when a sitting governor was in their second term, they couldn't appoint anything till the new governor came in, and so we have some sitting members that are appointed whose terms are 6 years. And so we can check it and figure out what we'd like to do. Knowing what the council maps are and knowing looking at what other counties do and figure out what the best way forward is. Because right now our school board is the largest in the state. So I don't think there's any appetite to expand it and make it 9 and 4. 9 and 4.
Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Would it be appropriate, since Senator Sidner had to go to a voting session, would it be appropriate for me to ask Ian Miller if he can share the senator's views on the amendment?
Well, we haven't shared the amendment with the senator yet. We cooked it up this morning, okay? Because we were talking to a lot of people about the bill. So we will share it with him, but we're not offering the amendment today. And so I think we can have those conversations offline to find out how they feel about the amendment and work through it a little bit. So I think we'll hold on that right now, but thank you for asking.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, Delegate Pastor, you have a physical hand in the air.
I do.
I see it. So I'm
Thank you, because it's been up for a good while, my big physical hand.
And you are on the Education Subcommittee, so I want to go to you next.
Thank you. I just want to make some clarification here. First of all, about the appointed folks, they have until 2028, this time only having 6 years, only this time.
That's
because
correct.
we just, right before I got off the school board, did we talk about making that staggered board. So that will never happen again. They come up during presidential time. The elected ones come up during the gubernatorial vote. So I want to make that clear. Also, the issue I'm asking, just for clarification, I heard Delegate Ebersol, but just in terms of what I just heard from the chair of the subcommittee, just making sure that I'm hearing the correct thing, that we are going to vote on keeping the 7, the election as it is now and would have been, without all of the issues with the county council for 2026. So those people who are on the board and in the world will know by the end of this session, is that correct? That we are having a 2026 election. And in our interim time, or before the end of the next session, 26, we will have laid out with the senators or whomever what future elections are going to look like, because TABCO has already weighed in, and we don't want to go into that right now, but there's going to be a lot of discussion about what the board looks like. Am I correct on that?
Yeah, we heard you loud and clear that you think that the school board needed some stability at this time, and this would give it. And so that is the 2026 elections would be elected in the 7 councilmatic districts that exist today. And then we would work together for a consensus legislation of what the school board looks like going forward with more information, because we would have the county council maps in hand then.
Okay. Thank you. I just want to make sure that we are. Can you tell me then, just for my information, about either you, Delegate Forbes, or Delegate Ebersol, what does this look like now in terms of making sure that this will get a vote before sine die or is coming on? What do we do now? What's the process?
We're going to get the amendment drawn up, and we can meet if I will check on timing, because we'll have to go back over to the Senate for approval. If we may not wait till next Friday, we may have a special meeting. We'll try to find a time early one morning, maybe when everybody can meet, or if not, we'll wait till Friday. But I really am thinking that I would like to get this amendment drawn up more quickly, and perhaps as early as Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, have us send it on to Ways and Means for consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Delegate White Holland.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate the opportunity to have some conversation about this specific proposal or amendment. I wanted to get some additional insight and maybe further clarification related to the reasoning behind it. I hear that this will better outline a process by which that we would use to determine future, how the board would look in the future. But I think in the current bill, I didn't know if why there was unreadiness related to the prescribed, language, because I think that the bill sponsor put forth a tremendous amount of effort in examining what other school boards look like, and might have done some of the work that this work group proposes to do. And so just wanted to get a sense about why this work group would be needed, given some of the work that, if anything, was put forth in developing this piece of proposed legislation. So
Thank you, Delegate White Holland, for that
that.
question.
Thank you.
One of the main concerns about it is the school board is a nonpartisan group, and the bill as drafted requires them to draw new legislative districts after each census, and then we approve them, and that seems problematic to me. Like the process of having another redistricting committee on the school board level seems problematic to me.
So, Mr. Chair, if I may.
You have a follow-up? Yeah, sure.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So that was the consensus amongst the group, that was the primary reason for unreadiness amongst the subcommittee?
That was problematic to other members of the education subcommittee, and it was problematic to TABCO. TABCO asked for this bill to be withdrawn, and they felt like they weren't considered at all in something that they think they have an important voice in.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
And that letter is in the folder, the testimony folder.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good questions. Thank you, White Holland. Delegate Ross.
I had the very same question. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm fine now.
Okay, thank you so much. Delegate Shalega.
Thank you. So just so I understand what this would actually mean, if we pass the proposed amended bill, then in next year's election, the school board districts would be the same as they are today. And so voters would go to the poll, vote new council districts, old school board districts. And then we'd work on it and then and then make it align in the following 4-year election. Is that what you're saying?
That may be the conclusion that the delegates and the senators come to, but I can't say today that that's the decision they would make.
So did TABCO have an opinion on maintaining the school board districts with the council districts? Did they weigh in on whether they thought those should remain the same?
Well, I think if you look at their, I don't want to, you can look at their letter that is in the testimony that they wrote earlier. They were not opposed when they thought that the school board districts for this one election would remain with the county districts they have, because there is this other problem of having the 4 appointeds whose terms end at the next presidential election in 2028. Like, so you couldn't go to an all elected board with 9 members with the new maps because there are 4 members whose terms end in 2028 that are appointed. They called it a thorny issue in the
Okay. I will-
and to respect to Delegate Pastor's concern that we don't know what the maps are going to be in the council if they come out in October, whether they'll be held. It gives stability in the next election for school board members and an opportunity for members of the delegation, both House and Senate, to weigh in on what they think it should look like going forward. I mean,
Okay.
the work group would be available to anyone who wants to share their concerns.
Yeah, I would assume it will be a public venue because, elections are public. Thank you.
Thank you.
Delegate McCaskill, you have the floor.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to echo Cheryl's concern and Delegate Pastor's concern and Delegate Hollins as well. I know I heard you say that we were going to take into maybe some consideration for our next meeting, knowing the timing that we have. I just want to emphasize that we understand that this needs to be done. There is some talk of how it needs to be done, but I think that we need to have these conversations much sooner than later, Mr. Chair, so that we can have some consideration for this session for this particular bill.
And to that end, I encourage you to interact with Delegate Forbes, who's the chair of the Education Subcommittee. I'll tell you who the other members of the Education Subcommittee are. Delegate Stein is on that committee. Delegate Long is, but I'm missing who's
Pastor.
Delegate Pastor, of course. Delegate Pastor, of course.
Pastor.
So interact with any of them to tell them what you're thinking. Probably that group will get together and craft what the amendment will look like.
And we will get it going right as quickly as possible. We understand we have heard the necessity of the stability and keeping some calm with the school board in this next election.
And yeah, go ahead. Delegate Phillips.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A couple of things. I do hope that the committee is talking to the sponsor over the course of the next couple of days. I do believe that urgency is important because we really need to do something here before we leave. And then the third thing is I really hear and I respect my chair of education, Delegate Forbes, but no matter who draws the line, and whether we rely on councilmatic lines or we draw lines specifically for the school board, which is done in a number of different jurisdictions. Of course, there's going to be some political component to that. But once again, there are some principles that I think we all need to come to grips with. The school board in County is too large. Many years ago, pre my time, there was a lot of debate about hybrid and elected school boards, and we went with the hybrid board after much consideration. And then the third thing is, those are the two. I forgot the third. But as we look at this from a principal perspective, I do think that Senator Sidnor's bill really took all of those things into consideration in moving forward. So I'm supportive of the bill as it is, but I will be glad to, consider the Education Committee's recommendations. So thank you.
Thank you, Delegate Phillips. And thank you. I want you, if the work group goes through, I would love you to bring all of those concerns to the work group.
Yep.
And your knowledge.
Yeah, thank you. Delegate Long.
One of the things that's really got me concerned is we're telling voters that the school board is going to be made up of 7 members, knowing right well that it could possibly be changed to 9, and dealing with the district lines is very concerning. I would think for transparency that we need. This is my personal opinion. We need to stick with whatever the county council comes up with their 9 different members and how it's drawn up to keep the school board the same way. I think that's just good transparency. It's good government. And, that's my feeling. And I'm just, putting it out there, and hopefully anyway, thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Delegate Pasteur. I look at that. You have both hands up. Your real hand.
Both
and the hand
hands.
in the corner too.
Just in case. I just want to point out again that it is not 7. We're just talking the 7-11. The board will still have its full complement of 12 people on it. And remember that right now it's staggered. So when those 7 are elected, there's still going to be 4 people who are going to be on there who were appointed, and they won't go off until 2028. So we're always going to do that. But I can tell you, we've never wanted to have more. We never wanted to have more than 12. And I want to make it clear that in my thinking, and I appreciate Delegate Forbes taking back my concerns and sharing them both today and yesterday, that it is important for us, for the sake of the board, to let them be able to have their election of 7 this year. And for everyone here to be clear, there's going to be a lot of conversation when you read, Delegate Shalaga brought it up. She's correct. Look at that letter from TABCO, because their thinking has changed. And so there's going to be an awful lot of discussion, and it's going to have to be transparent about how, from where that 12 or whatever we end up with will come. And that's important. And we needed to have this whole year to be able to have those discussions, because their thinking has changed. And a lot of other people's thinkings have changed. 4, 2, all elected. So we're going to have those conversations this year. And this is why it is so important that we have this election, at least so the board can continue to do its work. And Senator Sidnor's bill was very thoughtful in its planning, because, and somebody else said it, remember that we're going to have the census again pretty soon. And that may make some other changes. So we must have some continuity as we go into that, because that's going to change possibly what the council looks like in 2030. And that is what he had in his bill. But the most important salient point here is that we give our school board an opportunity, all 12 people, to be able to do the work for our children as seamlessly as possible without being jarred by what the council is doing.
Thank you, Delegate.
Thank you. Thank you.
I see Delegate Long, you want a second bite at the apple, sir?
Yes, sir. Real quick question. Is it possible that the 4 members that are appointed by the governor, could 2 of those be eliminated and have the rest of the 9 elected? And that way, it would seem to me you still have your 12 members going along with what TABCO wants, what the school board wants. And I would just think that might be a solution. I'm just curious if we could do that or not.
Well, this would be part of this, you should be part of your offline discussion with members of the Ed Sub, and you're one of them. The problem there is which 2, okay? Who do you kick off, okay? Because they were all appointed at the same time. So there would be, do we draw straws? That doesn't seem like the way to make decisions. So we've discussed that. It's problematic. We are, I will say generally, we are in a little position of instability here, because the council has been enlarged, but the council hasn't picked their districts yet. We can't quite see the whole picture. And we can, I feel like what we're doing with this idea, and we'll figure out how to do it exactly, we're sort of pressing pause and keeping things stable. As Delegate Pasteur has so astutely pointed out, this group needs some stability. And the general idea is that we'll do that, but then we'll look at what we'll look forward on that. I think what we'll do is we'll put it in. My thinking is that we'll have the chairs, convene this group, but we will not limit it to certain people. We can make it whatever size we feel is appropriate in that particular case. I will tell you that Delegate Forbes and I did some research, and indeed we are the largest school board in the state. Okay, we are. Prince George's did downsize theirs. We are only by 1 in a couple of cases, but by many more in other cases, we are the largest school board in the state. And so to use a word that was used a couple times last week, I don't think we have an appetite for making the board larger at this point. So we're trying to find a way to do that within reason. Delegate Ruth.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted it on the record that I was informed that Senator Sidnor never received this letter from TABCO. And so it's disappointing that they didn't reach out to him.
Okay, we'll check that with them. I received the letter, so I would have trouble understanding why they would have been selective in who they sent it to. But for sure, I will, as the chair, send that letter over to Delegate Sidnor's office so that he can see it. Any other discussion at this point on this? All right, so you all have your walk-in papers. If you take a great interest in this, you need to interact with each other. Like I said, I will talk about what level of alacrity we need to use to make sure that we get something done. As Delegate Phillips said astutely, we need to do something. I would say we need to do a good thing too. And so let's make sure we're doing both. Is there any further discussion on this bill or the concept? Okay, seeing none, thank you all very much for a rich and I think civil and valuable discussion on this. I really appreciate your time on that. That will conclude our work on Senate Bill 656 at this time. We have a couple of things, but first for house cleaning, Delegate Phillips has asked us to admit a guest, LaFawn Porter, who will be talking to us about 2 historic yacht clubs in the Trade Point Atlantic area. They're going to take just 5 minutes and let us know of not want to say a situation, but of what's going on over there with land use. And with that, I'm going to let Delegate Phillips introduce if he'd like to first.
Sure.
And then LaFawn, you can take it away after that.
So yes, I'd like to introduce LaFawn Porter. LaFawn Porter is working with the Pleasant Yacht Club and also has been working with the North Point Yacht Club. 2 historic yacht clubs that came out of Sparrows Point, and their origins date back to the 1950s. He will explain somewhat of the challenge that they're both experiencing and go a little bit more into the historic significance of the Pleasant Yacht Club. So, Mr. Porter.
You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Delegate Phillip. Mr. Chair, may I share my screen? I'd like to put up a PowerPoint.
You can do that. And if you do that, John will make it possible for you to do so.
I just sent the request.
Stand by.
And while we're doing that, I'd like to acknowledge Delegate Salinga, Delegate Narosky, and Delegate Metzger. I'm a hometown kid. I went to Edgemere Elementary. I graduated from Sparrows Point High School, so this issue is near and dear to my heart. Perfect. And I'm only going to take 5 minutes, so forgive me for speaking quickly. As the chair stated, I am representing both North Point Yacht Club and Pleasant Yacht Club in this discussion. It's focused on the potential elimination of both of those yacht clubs as a result of Trade Point Atlantic selecting a specific option for their dredging. And I'm going to talk quickly about their history of both of those yacht clubs. I had the opportunity to present to the Senate delegation. To the right of me is the Commodore of North Point Yacht Club, Andy West, and the Commodore of Pleasant Yacht Club, Derek Jones. Just quickly, the history of North Point Yacht Club. It started in the 1950s because they were Bethlehem Steel employees, and they went to Bethlehem Steel and asked them if they could help them develop or build a pier in a boating facility. Bethlehem Steel acknowledged that. That later became Sparrows Point Country Club, which was moved to another area. But what happened is the non-management white employees, because this was the 50s, were able to establish their own boating yacht club, North Point Yacht Club, which was established in 1951, and they remain today. The other yacht club, Pleasant Yacht Club, was established in the later 50s and 60s. This was the black yacht club because at that point we had segregation, and Bethlehem Steel would not allow the, well, as a result of segregation, the black boaters and Bethlehem Steel employees were not allowed to use the North Point Yacht Club. So they went to Bethlehem Steel and requested, can you give us something similar boating structure, pier, and so on. As you can see in the third bullet, Bethlehem Steel refused to provide that. But what they did provide was used materials, and they allowed the Black boaters, 5 or 6, to use the equipment to build their own. And that's what they did. It's worth mentioning also, to this day on the property, there's a bungalow that was on the original Bethlehem Steel property that these Black boaters or Black employees took heavy duty equipment and moved it over to the site. And that's part of our clubhouse today. And by the way, I'm a member. The boaters pulled their money, $3,300. And if you could imagine 1960s, what that was worth. And they got carpenters to build a pier, put electric there. They built a boat ramp and so on. Today, that yacht club is used more than just for the boaters. It's used for the community. Turner Station, African Americans in the Turner Station community, as well as the Edgemere community, they leverage and are able to use the facilities when needed, and they have senior days and so on. It's important to understand the history that I'm just sharing. That's not the history that I researched. Our last surviving member, who was an employee of Beth Steel and one of those 5 or 6 African Americans, told me this oral history. He's still in our boat club. He's 97 years old, and we actually took him down to when we presented to the senators. Quickly, just to give you a perspective, the portion, this one pier is Pleasant Yacht Club. If you were coming down Worth Road, you from this side on the left, this is the regional park that's built out, and they just had the ribbon cutting the other day. This is Pleasant Yacht Club. This area here is North Point Yacht Club. What is being proposed by Trade Point, because of their dredging and the option that they've chosen, there are multiple options, but the option they chose, they will be digging out the property of North Point. This will all become aquatic water. A small portion of Pleasant Yacht Club, which is, again, this area here, would become water. The remainder of Pleasant Yacht Club is slated to become property of Baltimore County, and they're turning it over to the regional park. Where we were surprised when we realized that, because initially they were saying they needed all of our property as part of the dredging, but they're really giving Pleasant Yacht Club's property over to the regional park. This is the rendering that Trade Point is advertising of how it will look afterwards. And by the way, if you're coming down Worth Road again, this is the regional park that's now in place that just had the ribbon cutting. And if you go another 20 feet down Worth Road, you'll make a left into Pleasant Yacht Club. And this orange piece, and again, this is the rendering, but the orange piece is our clubhouse. This is a boat ramp, and this is the pier. All of this is there today. This is what the African Americans built in the late 60s, that they built with used parts as well as investment. The only thing that's not here today that's in this rendering is the parking lot. So again, they're taking everything that was built and enjoyed by the community in Pleasant Yacht Club. And by the way, the North Point Yacht Club would be all water. This is the water area that's not shown in their picture. And this is Trade Point's picture. So, in a nutshell, we're asking support that the option that Trade Point either reconsider or select another option, so that the history of both clubs is not eliminated. Pleasant is a little unique because there's nothing like it in Baltimore County and in the surrounding areas in terms of a Black boating club. There are 2, one in Baltimore City and in Annapolis, that are virtual, but nothing where the property is solely for the purpose of that particular membership, as well as having its own facility to be able to support the community. That's 5 minutes in a nutshell. I want to be respectful of your time. We had a very productive meeting in Annapolis with the senators in Trade Point. Trade Point supposedly it has heard us and is reconsidering other options, but there's nothing concrete at this point. I have additional slides that talk about the dredging and why it doesn't make sense what is required of Trade Point, but I'll pause there because I think my 5 minutes is up.
Well, thank you. We appreciate your respect for all that. We appreciate that you waited around for a good hour before you could get on. As ever, if you have this slideshow and you would like to share it with John Sanic, or he comes down his emails, BCOD, he's the gentleman who would have been emailing with you a little bit. He will share that slideshow with all 20 members of the House delegation so that they can look at it. And I see Delegate Grammer has a question. We got the East Side guys with their hands up here. Here we go.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Porter. So I represent the area. Can you please send me the slides immediately?
Yes, I can. And I also will send you a email with detail, as in what's being happening, why it shouldn't happen this way, that we sent to the delegation. If Delegate Phillips, I'm sure you have his email, and I'll get that to you literally a minute after we get off the phone.
And
I'm
I'll
glad
have,
to do
I'll have
that.
John send it
Okay.
immediately. That will probably save some time for them.
And
He'll send-
please include your cell. What are your conversations with TradePoint like right now?
Well, I tell you, the last conversation we had was at a community meeting, and Aaron
Tamacchio.
simply said, "You guys are being eliminated." And when we went to the Maryland Department of Environment and as well as the Army Corps of Engineers, and we told them what they were doing, they said it doesn't make sense. And I could tell you why it doesn't make sense. But the Maryland Department of Environment contact said, we've never seen anyone take land to give back, take good land because of what they're doing, but they have the option to do it. So that was our last communication. Now, in fairness to TradePoint, they did say after our meeting in Annapolis, they heard us and they'll consider something, but they also said there are no guarantees.
Okay, I would encourage you to stay in touch with TradePoint, and let's stay in touch after session ends, please.
Yeah, thank you. TradePoint's a good partner, but we need to make sure they're listening. So,
and for the record, we are very supportive of what they're doing. You know, my father worked at Beth Steel. We supportive. This small piece is, we don't want to lose our history.
So we have another delegate from District 6, Delegate Long.
Thank you, Mr. Porter. I have had a lot of conversations with people in the neighborhood. My daughter actually lives on that creek. They're very concerned about what the consequences of taking part in this, what is going to change the hydrology. There's a lot of different concerns. One of the things that I've heard from consensus from a lot of people, from what I understand, TradePoint Atlantic has to mitigate what they're doing over there at the Ore Pier or wherever it's at for the new terminal. Everybody that I've talked to, the consensus is they would rather see that money spent on oyster restorations, which I think is a great idea if it can be done. That's just a suggestion, but that's one thing I kept hearing over and over and over again. They would rather see oyster restoration so they could help make a better quality of the water. And again, they are very concerned down in that area about what's going to happen as far as the ebb and the flow. The other thing is, and I want to say it real quick, I actually went down there the other day just to see where TradePoint Atlantic's property starts and where the two clubs are at. Is that part of the problem? Is because the road for ingress and egress is actually owned by TradePoint Atlantic, and could that possibly be changed to give ingress and egress to the two yacht clubs? Would that be one of the possibilities? I'm looking for some way we can get this resolved.
You're a great straight man, and I'm not going to get into it. You see, my next slide is the Cold Pier Channel, and I can talk to that. And we have other options, and the ingress and egress is not an issue. It's just a matter of Aaron Tamacchio has, in fairness to him, he's been clear that long term both yacht clubs would be eliminated. But when we found out that his justification for eliminating us was as a result of this development effort, we began to do our research and said that there's other options and this doesn't make sense. But you'll have the detail, but I'd love to have more time to get into this Cold Pier. And I can tell you, based on the Army Corps of Engineers and the Maryland Department of Environment, it doesn't make sense, even if they do put it in this Cold Pier, that they shouldn't take our land as a justification for this project.
So there's a lot of good questions here. I'm watching time a little bit, but when you send the slideshow to the delegation person or Delegate Phillips, when he shares it with us, be sure and share whatever phone number or email address is a good contact for you as well, because I feel like we've got a lot of really good questions. Delegate Phillips, you have a question.
No, I was going to just kind of, and I see Delegate Ruth, but let me say a couple of things. Number one, I want to thank LaFawn Porter. I've known LaFawn for years. He's a great IBMer. The community is fortunate to have him. We worked at IBM together, and he happens to be an attorney. So he is the advocate for this group. and well prepared, as you can see. He's done all his homework. The other commentary that I would make, and I shared this with him, I think this is really unfortunate. 10 years ago, approximately, this issue came up. Trade Point Atlantic, this now speaker, then Speaker Pro Tem, got involved, and Trade Point Atlantic said, you know what? We hear you. We're leaving these yacht clubs alone. We're 10 years later, and this has come up again. So, all of us want Trade Point Atlantic to be successful. This is one of those situations where I think they're being a little tone deaf. So
Okay.
to my East Baltimore County colleagues, thank you for taking this up and looking into it. And, I'm here to support you in any way that we can. The guy on the West Side, whose dad also worked at Bastille.
And for the final comment then on or question, Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I really appreciate this information, and certainly going to look through what's sent and look at it more carefully. But is this something that we could consider doing a delegation letter to Trade Point Atlantic? I just don't think we should be wiping out the history of the county.
I agree with you. It's a little bit of a slippery slope when we start doing delegation letters. What I will recommend is if some people would like to write a letter, we'll be happy to publicize it through delegation mail, and also if we meet again to make sure that people who would like to sign on as members of the delegation, I think that's an excellent idea. Mr. Porter, you have your
closing remarks.
I was going to go to you. Trust me.
Okay, I want to invite everyone down this coming Saturday. Senator Carl Jackson, as well as Senator Sidnor, who've been helping me champion this, is leading a small group of, I think, your colleagues, and we're having a tour, and we're letting them walk the property, and they can feel and see it. That's at 4 p.m. on Saturday, and I know
that's at your yacht club, the one you're a member of.
At Pleasant Yacht Club, and I'll give the address. The president of the county council will be accompanying him, as well as some of your colleagues, at 4 p.m. on Saturday, really to get the full extent and feel of what's going on.
Excellent invite. Everybody will note it, but also then if you'll, among the many things that you're going to send to us, if you will include that information about that, we will send that along as well. I gather you don't have our direct email that we were speaking to you through Delegate Phillips.
I'll forward that to him, Mr. Chair.
Beautiful. Thank you. Are there any other questions for Mr. Porter regarding the yacht clubs and Trade Point? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Thank you so much. You're welcome to stay. Might be fun. We don't have much left to do. We are 15 minutes away from session. I want to remind you all that we're going to do a picture. I had a member protest to me a little bit about not giving much advance notice. And all I can say is sorry, sort of not sorry, sorry. So, but it occurred to me that we hadn't done it, and we're honored to have our new member, Delegate Ross, and we need to make sure that the picture that we post has an accurate representation of the people. So up to this point, we haven't had to retake it, but now we get to. So do that. I want to point out also, I see Delegate Allen's hand, but Delegate Pasteur, you have an idea also that you want to make sure everybody understands what you're doing. So you're up.
Thank you. Please remember a letter went out from the delegation office indicating we would like to also have our chiefs of staff or your trusted staff person also be photographed. So please ask them to come over at the end of floor today so we can have a group picture of them with or without us, their choice.
Yes. Okay. I think we'll see what happens. It'd be nice if we were with them, but maybe we should give them their own stage.
I think those with whom I've spoken would like to be with their delegates.
Okay, well, good. It's good they like us that much. What a relief. I don't know if mine do, but maybe some others.
Well, yeah.
All right. So get ready for pictures, wear your pins and all that good stuff. Delegate Allen, I see your hand up for the good of the order.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just wanted to note, you and I talked about this a little bit. I know Monday is opening day for the Orioles, so a lot of people are going to be, not here. But Monday evening in our office in 305, I'm going to have a little informal happy hour. An old friend who works for Civil Justice Inc. is going to be in town. They do incredible work with people who need, lawyer referrals. They work on economic justice, foreclosure assistance, a lot of legal assistance, and they do some really good stuff. So she just wanted to kind of meet the delegation and kind of offer her services. So if anyone wants to come by and say hi, we'll have some beers and some snacks in room 305.
I didn't hear the hour. I might not have been paying attention.
I think we're shooting for around, hold on, let me triple check. I'm sorry. Yeah, we're gonna say around 5 p.m.
Okay, great. 5 p.m. in room 305. I'm sorry I won't be here. It makes me, maybe I'll give up the Oriole game for that. It sounds so
Yeah,
exciting.
I doubt that.
Not right, exactly. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, thank you. Good meeting, everyone. Very productive. We have work to do. We'll see you on the floor.